Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies trading lower here today after Fed Chair Jay Powell appeared to shut down a question about the government possibly building a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Let's listen.
We're not allowed to own Bitcoin. The Federal Reserve Act says what we can own, and we're not looking for a law change. That's the kind of thing for Congress to consider, but we are not looking for a law change at the Fed.
President-elect Trump has backed such a reserve, and investors are very bullish on Trump's pro-crypto stance. Our next guest calling 2025, quote, the year for Bitcoin and digital assets. Joining me now, we want to bring in Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming. Senator, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this morning. So let's start with the commentary that we got from Powell yesterday, just because that is such a driving force here in the markets this morning. The market seems to be a bit worried just about maybe what we heard from Powell, what that could signal here for crypto adoption going forward. Does that at all derail some of that optimistic sentiment that we have heard from you and your colleagues on the heels about Bitcoin and what that adoption rate could look like?
It doesn't discourage me, because what Chairman Powell was saying is they don't have the authority now to own Bitcoin. I want to give it to them. I want our federal government to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve that can help back the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, and then serve as a long-term savings account, thereby offsetting our national debt, which is over $36 trillion now. So my proposal would have the U.S. Purchase through other assets it already owns 200,000 Bitcoin a year for 5 years for a total of 1 million, hold it for at least 20 years. And at the numbers that we project, that would accrue a fund that's worth about $16 trillion. So it has a couple of benefits for our country. As I said, shoring up with a hard asset, Bitcoin, our U.S. dollar, and it helps offset some of the pain of our dramatic national debt. Now, if you were to see Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's Doge effort goal reduce our expenditures, we would be able to bring in line our expenditures in a way that flatlines our debt and allows us to begin to retire it.
So, Senator, just curious, if it was that easy to convert these certificates that Federal Reserve banks across the country already have into Bitcoin to cut our deficit, why has nobody at the Fed thought about this previously? They've had these reserves since the 70s.
Because, as Chairman Powell said, they don't believe they have the legal authority to own Bitcoin. We need to give that to them. The Bitcoin the U.S. already owns, roughly 200,000 Bitcoin, are within the asset forfeiture fund. And it's important, I think, that we take that fund, scoop it over into a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then add to it, which is...
Is Bitcoin the right asset class to do that, even if that authority is given, just because of the volatility of it and also the fact that it's only been around for 15 years?
It absolutely is the right asset. It is digital gold. It is a finite source. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever be mined. And it has the elements of strength, and even though it's slightly volatile, it's always volatile in an upward leaning direction. And so the goal here of holding it for 20 years is in recognition that on the short term, there is short-term volatility. On the long term, there is long-term growth that far exceeds the ability of the U.S. dollar to keep up. The U.S. dollar is designed to debase. The Fed has a goal of 2% per year inflation, whereas Bitcoin's goal is to far exceed in value inflation and far exceed the value of the U.S. dollar. And so far from inception, it has done exactly that. It's grown about 55% per year if you look at the long term. Over time, it'll drop from 55% a year to 45% a year to 35% a year. But it will continue to grow, where the US dollar will continue to decline in value. So it's a very important asset to hold.
Senator Lummis, while we have you, only have a minute left here, but I want to get to some of the dysfunction or disagreement, maybe is a better word to call it, inside the Republican Party on the House side. And I bring that up just because of some of the names and scenarios that are being floated, whether or not Mike Johnson is the right person for the speakership. We had Rand Paul out this morning floating Elon Musk potentially as a speaker. What do you think of that?
I love Elon Musk at Doge. I love Elon Musk and his close relationship to President Trump. I think that's where you're going to see the thought leaders, the most inventive people in the world working together to solve problems. I think if you put Elon Musk in as a speaker substitute, it's a total waste of Elon Musk's extraordinary talent. Elon Musk shouldn't be used to try to corral consensus within the House. That's a skill set that Mike Johnson has. Elon Musk is an out-of-the-box thinker. You don't want to limit his out-of-the-box thinking by putting him in the U.S. House of Representatives to lead it.
All right, Senator Lummis, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.